Hello everybody and welcome back to bonus episodes with Pokemon Yellow. Why am I here at the Sea Cottage in front of Bill's house? Because I like the music. Today we're pretty much going to be reciting all the entries of the Pokédex, starting with Bulbasaur and going all the way to Mew. Some Pokemon, well actually most entries you haven't seen yet in this LP. But, hold on. There we go. But I'm going to read off every single Pokédex entry in the game. So, if you're not interested in knowing what the Pokédex has to say, or you want to just see what it says on your own time without watching this video, there's a link to the whole Pokédex via Bulbapedia down below. Speaking of Bulbapedia, let's go start with its mascot, Bulbasaur. The seed Pokemon. It can go for days without eating a single morsel. In the bulb on its back, it stores energy. Next up is Ivysaur. The seed Pokemon. The bulb on its back grows by drawing energy. It gives off an aroma when it is ready to bloom. Venusaur, the seed Pokemon. The flower on its back catches the sun's rays. The sunlight is then absorbed and used for energy. Charmander, the lizard Pokemon. The flame at the tip of its tail makes a sound as it burns. You can only hear it in quiet places. Charmeleon, the flame Pokemon. Tough fights could excite this Pokemon. When excited, it may blow out bluish-white flames. Charizard, the flame Pokemon. When expelling a blast of super hot fire, the red flame at the tip of its tail burns more intensely. Squirtle, the tiny turtle. Shoots water at prey while in the water. Withdraws into its shell when in danger. Wartortle, the turtle Pokemon. When trapped, this Pokemon will pull in its head, but its tail will still stick out a little bit. Blastoise, the shellfish Pokemon, aka breakdancing Blastoise. Once it takes aim at its enemy, it blasts out water with even more force than a fire hose. Caterpie, the worm Pokemon. If you touch the feeler on top of its head, it'll release a horrible stink to protect itself. I remember when I first caught Caterpie, I made a remark saying, so if you touch those feelers, it farts on you? Or something to that extent. Metapod, the cocoon Pokemon, hardens its shell to protect itself. However, a large impact may cause it to pop out of its shell. If that happened, would it still be a Caterpie, or would it be an underdeveloped Butterfree? Those are the things that can keep someone up at night. Butterfree, the butterfly Pokemon. Its wings, covered with poisonous powders, repel water. This allows it to fly in the rain. Well, that seems useful. Weedle, the hairy bug Pokemon. Beware of the sharp stinger on its head. It hides in grass and bushes where it eats leaves. That doesn't really sound very threatening. Kakuna, the cocoon Pokemon. Able to move only slightly. When endangered, it may stick out its stinger and poison its enemy. I'm guessing the stinger is those two folds on the front of it, because there is official artwork where it pokes out those two folds on its front. Heck, you could even see it in its sprite for red and blue. Beedrill, the poison bee. It has 3 poisonous stingers on its forelegs and its tail. They are used to jab its enemy repeatedly. Oh, so those are its legs? I always consider those to be its arms. Oh well, Pidgey, the tiny bird. Very docile. If attacked, it will often kick up the sand to protect itself rather than fight back. Pidgeotto. This Pokemon is full of vitality. It constantly flies around its large territory in search of prey. Pidgeot, the bird Pokemon. This Pokemon flies at Mach 2 speed, seeking prey. Its large talons are feared as wicked weapons. Rattata, the rat Pokemon, will chew on anything with its fangs. If you see one, it is certain that 40 more live in the area. That makes sense considering how common they are. Seriously, there's one in almost every route of the game. Raticate, the rat Pokemon. Its hind feet are webbed. They act as flippers so it can swim in rivers and hunt for prey. Spearow, a tiny bird Pokemon. Inept at flying high, however, it can fly around very fast to protect its territory. Fearow, the beak Pokemon. A Pokemon that dates back many years. If it senses danger, it flies high and away, instantly. Ekans, the snake Pokemon. The older it gets, the longer it grows. At night, it wraps its long body around tree branches to rest. That sounds very reminiscent of real-world snakes, actually. Arbok, the cobra Pokemon. The frightening patterns on its belly have been studied. 6 variations have been confirmed. Pikachu. One of the only 2 times in the game where you can actually hear its default cry in Pokemon Yellow. It keeps its tail raised to monitor its surroundings. If you yank its tail, it'll try to bite you. Actually, no, 3 times. There's when Professor Oak is doing the whole intro speech at the beginning, right here in the Pokedex, and also when you talk to the Pikachu at the surfing minigame hut, south of Fuchsia. Raichu, a mouse Pokemon. When electricity builds up inside its body, it becomes feisty. It also glows in the dark. Glow in the dark Raichu, okay. Sandshrew, the mouse Pokemon. Its body is dry. When it gets cold at night, its hide is said to become coated with a fine dew. Okay. Sandslash, the mouse Pokemon, is skilled at slashing enemies with its claws. If broken, they start to grow back in a day. Nidoran Female, the Poison Pin Pokemon. A mild-mannered Pokemon that does not like to fight. Beware, its small horns secrete venom. Nidorina. When resting deep in its burrow, its thorns always retract. This is proof that it is relaxed. Nidoqueen, the drill Pokemon. Tough scales cover the sturdy body of this Pokemon. It appears that the scales grow in cycles. Nidoran Male, a Pokemon that I have seen way too many times throughout this LP to the point of gladly throwing rocks at them in the Safari Zone. Its large ears are always kept upright. If it senses danger, it will attack with a poisonous sting. Very fitting since one of its starting moves is Poison Sting, at least from what I remember. Nidorino. Its horns contain venom. If they are stabbed into an enemy, the impact makes the poison leak out. Ugh. Nidoking, the drill Pokemon. Its steel-like hide adds to its powerful tackle. Its horns are so hard, they can pierce a diamond. Clefairy, the fairy Pokemon. Adored for their cute looks and playfulness, they are thought to be rare as they do not appear often. And yet I encountered 3 of them in a row in Mount Moon. Clefable, the fairy Pokemon. They appear to be very protective of their own world. It is a kind of fairy, rarely seen by people. Vulpix, the fox Pokemon. Both its fur and its tails are beautiful. As it grows, the tails split and form more tails. Speaking of tails, here's Ninetales, the fox Pokemon. According to an enduring legend, 9 noble saints were united and reincarnated as this Pokemon. That took a turn that I was not expecting. Jigglypuff, the balloon Pokemon, uses its alluring eyes to enrapture its foe. It then sings a pleasing melody that lulls the foe to sleep. As a longtime viewer of the Pokemon anime, that is very, very true. Whether it be on purpose or not. Wigglytuff, the balloon Pokemon, its body is full of elasticity. By inhaling deeply, it can continue to inflate itself without limit. That could be either adorable or terrifying, depending on how you view things. Zubat, the bat Pokemon, emits ultrasonic cries while it flies. They act as a sonar used to check for objects in its way. I guess it needs that so that it doesn't wind up bumping into things due to it not having eyes. Golbat, the bat Pokemon. It attacks in a stealthy manner, without warning. Its sharp fangs are used to bite and suck blood. Oddish, the weed Pokemon. It may have been mistaken for a clump of weeds. If you try to yank it out of the ground, it shrieks horribly. Yeesh. Gloom, the weed Pokemon. Smells incredibly foul! However, around 1 out of 1,000 people enjoy sniffing its nose-bending stink. Okay, the wording for that one is just hilarious. Vileplume, the fire Pokemon, flaps its broad flower petals to scatter its poisonous pollen. The flapping sound is very loud. Yeah, for some reason, all 3 of these Pokemon are the wrong colors. Oddish's body is not green, it's blue. Only the leaves are green. Same for Gloom and Vileplume, their bodies are not red, those are blue. Or at least, a dark blue. I'm guessing they were just working with the limits of the GBA color palette, I guess. Paris, the mushroom Pokemon, burrows under the ground to gnaw on tree roots. The mushrooms on its back absorb most of the nutrition. Parasect, the mushroom Pokemon. The bug host is drained of energy by the mushrooms on its back. They appear to do all the thinking. So does that mean that the Parasect itself is like a zombie Pokemon? Venonat, the insect Pokemon. Its large eyes act as radars. In a bright place, you can see that they are clusters of many tiny eyes. Venomoth, the poison moth Pokemon. Powdery scales on its wings are hard to remove. They also contain poison that leaks out on contact. So why would you want to remove them? Unless it needs to shed its old scales, I guess. Diglett, the mole Pokemon. It prefers dark places. It spends most of its time underground, though it may pop up in caves. Dugtrio, a team of triplets that can burrow over 60 miles per hour. Due to this, some people think it's an earthquake. Yeah, I can see that being the case, especially considering one of its potential moves that it can learn via level up is Earthquake. Meowth, the Scratch Cat Pokemon, appears to be more active at night. It loves round and shiny things. it can't stop from picking them up. Persian, the classy cat Pokemon. The gem in its forehead glows on its own! It walks with all the grace and elegance of a proud queen. Again, the wording choice for that just makes it so funny. Psyduck. I had to go out of my way to find this thing. Always tormented by headaches. It uses psychic powers, but is not known if it intends to do so. Okay, so I had to surf around on the water in that route just to find a Psyduck, which was actually pretty common. But the fact that you never see one unless you go out of your way to surf on that one specific route really seems a bit weird, especially considering it was one of the mainstays of the anime during the first few seasons. I mean, seriously, I only remembered that it even existed during this LP because I ran into a Golduck, the duck Pokemon, in Victory Road. Its slim and long limbs end in broad flippers. They are used for swimming gracefully in lakes. Mankey, the pig monkey Pokemon. An agile Pokemon that lives in trees. It angers easily and will not hesitate to attack anything. Primeape, the pig monkey Pokemon. It stops being angry only when nobody else is around. To view this moment is very difficult. So if you manage to find one that's not angry, take a picture. It'll last you much longer than the moment itself. Growlithe, the puppy Pokemon. A Pokemon with a friendly nature. However, it will bark fiercely at anything invading its territory. Arcanine, the legendary Pokemon. A legendary Pokemon in China. Many people are charmed by its grace and beauty while running. I think this is one of the few instances where they actually mention a real-world location by name in the games. What with it mentioning China, India through Indian elephants in Red and Blue, I think. America, because of Lieutenant Surge being the Lightning American. And Guyana from South America in the journal entries for Mew. But moving on to Poliwag, the tadpole Pokemon. The direction of the spiral on the belly differs by area. It is more adept at swimming than walking. Poliwhirl, the tadpole Pokemon. Under attack, it uses its belly spiral to put the foe to sleep. It then makes its escape. Poliwrath, the tadpole Pokemon. Swims powerfully using all the muscles in its body. It can even overtake champion swimmers. Abra, the PSI Pokemon. Sleeps 18 hours a day. If it senses danger, it will teleport itself to safety even as it sleeps. Kadabra, the PSI Pokemon. Many odd things happen and this Pokemon is close by. For example, it makes clocks run backwards. Alakazam, the PSI Pokemon. A Pokemon that can memorize anything. It never forgets what it learns. That's why this Pokemon is smart. And yet, it can't learn a fifth move. Well, at least not until Sun and Moon come out with the Z moves, acting as like a fifth move, but that doesn't exist in this game yet. Machop, the superpower Pokemon. Very powerful in spite of its small size. Its mastery of many types of martial arts makes it very tough. Machoke, the superpower Pokemon. The belt around its waist holds back its energy. Without it, this Pokemon would be unstoppable. Machamp, the superpower Pokemon. One arm alone can move mountains. Using all 4 arms, this Pokemon fires off awesome punches. Bellsprout, the flower Pokemon, prefers hot and humid places. It ensnares tiny insects with its vines and devours them. Weepinbell, the flycatcher Pokemon. When hungry, it swallows anything that moves. Its helpless prey is melted inside by strong acids. And Victreebel, the flycatcher Pokemon, lures prey with the sweet aroma of honey. Swallowed whole, the prey is melted in a day, bones and all. Tentacool, the jellyfish Pokemon. He can sometimes be found all dry and shriveled up on a beach. Toss it back into the sea to revive it. Does that work with actual jellyfish? Because I'm not entirely sure, but I have seen dried up jellyfish on a beach before. Never really thought to throw them back into the sea because I wasn't really sure whether or not it would sting me or not. Tentacruel, the jellyfish Pokemon. Its 80 tentacles can stretch and contract freely. They wrap around prey and weaken it with poison. Geodude, the rock Pokemon, commonly found near mountain trails, etc. If you step on one by accident, it gets angry. Who wouldn't get angry if you stepped on them by accident? Graveler, the rock Pokemon, often seen rolling down mountain trails. Obstacles are just things to roll straight over, not avoid. Golem, the Megaton Pokemon. Once it sheds its skin, its body turns tender and whitish. Its hide hardens when it's exposed to air. Ponyta, the Fire Horse Pokemon. Capable of jumping incredibly high, its hooves and sturdy legs absorb the impact of a hard landing. Rapidash, the Fire Horse Pokemon. Just loves to run. If it sees something faster than it itself, it'll give chase at top speed. Slowpoke, the dopey Pokemon. Incredibly slow and sluggish, it is quite content to loll about without worrying about the time. It likes to live the simple life. Slowbro, the hermit crab Pokemon, lives lazily by the sea. If the shelter on its tail comes off, it becomes a Slowpoke again. One of the few times that they mentioned Pokemon being able to de-evolve. Magnemite, the magnet Pokemon, is born with the ability to defy gravity. It floats in air on powerful electromagnetic waves. Magneton, the magnet Pokemon, generates strange radio signals. It raises the temperature by 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit, or 3.6 Fahrenheit degrees within 3,300 feet. Farfetch'd, the wild duck Pokemon. As a kid, I always mispronounced its name as Farfetch'd D. I don't know why. I just didn't think it would be pronounced that way until I saw it appear in the anime. Lives where reedy plants grow. They are rarely seen, so it's thought their numbers are decreasing. Doduo, the twin bird Pokemon. Its short wings make flying difficult. Where are its wings? Instead, this Pokemon runs at high speed on developed legs. Dodrio, the triple bird Pokemon that has very little shading on its main body. One of Doduo's 2 heads splits to form a unique species. It runs close to 40 miles per hour in prairies. Seal, the sea lion Pokemon, loves freezing cold conditions. relishes swimming in a frigid climate of around 14 Fahrenheit degrees. Dugong, one of my favorite ice types. The sea lion Pokemon. Its entire body is a snowy white. Unharmed by even an intense cold, it swims powerfully in icy waters. Grimer, the sludge Pokemon. Made of hardened sludge, it smells too putrid to touch. Even weeds won't grow in its path. Wow. Muck, the sludge Pokemon. Smells so awful it can cause fainting. Through degeneration, it lost its sense of smell. Shelder, the bivalve Pokemon. The shell can withstand any attack. However, when it is open, the tender body is exposed. Cloyster, the bivalve Pokemon. For protection, it uses its harder-than-diamond shell. It also shoots spikes from the shell. So that explains the spike cannon move. Ghastly, the gas Pokemon. Said to appear in decrepit, deserted buildings. It has no real shape, as it appears to be made of a gas. Hence the name. Haunter, the gas Pokemon. By licking, it saps the victim's life. It causes shaking that won't stop until the victim's demise. Gengar, the shadow Pokemon. A Gengar is close by if you feel a sudden chill. It may be trying to lay a curse on you. Onix, the rock snake Pokemon. Burrows at high speed in search of food. The tunnels it leaves are used as homes by Digletts. Drowsy, the hypnosis Pokemon. If you sleep by it all the time, it'll sometimes show you dreams it has eaten in the past. You know, that could be useful for people who want to take inspiration for their careers or stuff based on what they dreamed of, but have a tough time remembering what they dreamed. Although, for other people, it's probably a lot easier to remember their dreams. Heck, a while back I even tweeted out one of my dreams on Twitter, and that was kind of a weird one. I'll tell you about it later. Hypno, the hypnosis Pokemon. Avoid eye contact if you come across one. It'll try to put you to sleep by using its pendulum. Krabby, the river crab Pokemon. I had to catch one of these eventually. Its pincers are superb weapons. They sometimes break off during battle, but they grow back fast. Kingler, the pincer Pokemon. One claw grew massively and as hard as steel. It has 10,000 horsepower strength. However, it is too heavy. Although if you looked at it in red and blue, you'd think that both of its claws grew giant. Voltorb, the ball Pokemon. It is said to camouflage itself as a Pokeball. It will self-destruct with very little stimulus. Electrode, the ball Pokemon. Stores electrical energy inside its body. Even the slightest shock could trigger a huge explosion. Execute, the egg Pokemon. The heads attract each other and spin around. There must be 6 heads for it to maintain balance. Executor, the coconut Pokemon. Its cries are very noisy. This is because each of the 3 heads thinks about whatever it likes. I've heard about multiple personality disorder, but that's just kind of getting a bit too crazy, don't you think? Cubone, the lonely Pokemon. Where's the skull of its deceased mother? Its cries echo inside the skull and come out as a sad melody. Does that apply for every Cubone? Because... yeesh. Although that doesn't seem to affect it in the games that come out afterwards for specific situations that I'll go into once I get to those games. Marowak, the Bone Keeper Pokemon. Small and weak, this Pokemon is adept with its Bone Club. It has grown more vicious over the ages. Hitmonlee, the Kicking Pokemon. When kicking, the sole of its foot turns as hard as a diamond on impact and destroys its enemy. That's one powerful kick. Hitmonchan, the Punching Pokemon. Punches in corkscrew fashion. It can punch its way through a concrete wall in the same way as a drill. Wow. Lickitung, the licking Pokemon. Its tongue spans almost 7 feet and moves more freely than its forelegs. Its licks can cause paralysis. And yet in this game, it can't learn Lick. Ironic, don't you think so? Coughing, the poison gas Pokemon. In hot places, its internal gases could expand and explode without any warning. Be very careful. Wheezing, the poison gas Pokemon. It lives and grows by absorbing dust, germs, and poison gases that are contained in toxic waste and garbage. That must be an unpleasant existence. Rhyhorn, the Spikes Pokemon. A Pokemon with a one-track mind. Once it charges, it won't stop praying until it falls asleep. Rhydon, the Drill Pokemon. Walks on its hind legs. Shows signs of intelligence. Its armor-like hide even repels molten lava. Now that's a powerful Pokemon. Chansey, the Egg Pokemon. A gentle and kind-hearted Pokemon that shares its nutritious eggs if it sees an injured Pokemon. Tangela, the Vine Pokemon. Its identity is obscured by masses of thick, blue vines. The vines are said to never stop growing. Kangaskhan, the Parent Pokemon. Raises its young in its belly pouch. Won't run from any fight to keep its young protected. Horsey, the Dragon Pokemon. But it's not a dragon type. If it senses any danger, it will vigorously spray water or a special type of ink from its mouth. Seadra, the Dragon Pokemon. Touching the back fin causes numbness. It hooks its tail to coral to stay in place while sleeping. Goldeen, the Goldfish Pokemon. When it is time for them to lay eggs, they can be seen swimming up rivers and falls in large groups. Seaking, the Goldfish Pokemon. It is the male's job to make a nest by carving out boulders in the stream using the horn on its head. Staryu, Star-shaped Pokemon. As long as the center section is unharmed, it can grow back fully even if it is chopped to bits. So, do people eat those chopped bits of Staryu? Why would it be chopped to bits then? For the Pokedex to inform you about that. Did Professor Oak try that before when he was writing out the entries for this? Starmie, the mysterious Pokemon. The center section is named the Core. People think it is communicating when it glows in 7 colors. Mr. Mime always practices its pantomime act. It makes enemies believe something exists that really doesn't. Scyther, the Mantis Pokemon. leaps out of tall grass and slices prey with its scythes. The movement looks like that of a ninja. Jinx. The human-shaped Pokemon appears to move to a rhythm of its own, as if it were dancing. It wiggles its hips as it walks. Electabuzz. The electric Pokemon. If a major power outage occurs, it is certain that this Pokemon has eaten electricity at a power plant, which is why you usually find them in the power plant. Magmar. The Spitfire Pokemon. Born in an active volcano, its body is always cloaked in flames, so it looks like a big ball of fire. Pinsir. The Stag Beetle Pokemon. Grips its prey in its pincers and squeezes hard! It can't move if it's cold, so it lives in warm places. Tauros. The Wild Bull Pokemon. Had to trade for this one. A rowdy Pokemon with a lot of stamina. Once running, it won't stop until it hits something. Sounds a lot like Rhyhorn in that regard. Magikarp. The fish Pokemon. Famous for being very unreliable. Well, at least they're self-aware about this thing. It can be found swimming in seas, lakes, rivers, and shallow puddles. Gyarados. The atrocious Pokemon. Brutally vicious and enormously destructive. Known for totally destroying cities in ancient times. Lapras. The transport Pokemon. A gentle soul that can read the minds of people. It can ferry people across the sea on its back. Ditto, the transform Pokemon. When it spots an enemy, its body transfigures into an almost perfect copy of its opponent. Eevee. The evolution Pokemon. Its genetic code is unstable, so it could evolve in a variety of ways. There are only a few alive. Vaporeon. The Bubble Jet Pokemon. Its cell structure is similar to water molecules. It'll melt away and become invisible in water. Jolteon. The Lightning Pokemon. A sensitive Pokemon that easily becomes sad or angry. Every time its mood changes, it charges power. Flareon. The Flame Pokemon. It has a flame chamber inside its body. It inhales, then blows out fire that is over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Porygon. Not an evolution of Eevee. The Virtual Pokemon. The only Pokemon people anticipate can fly into space. None has managed that feat yet, however. Ammonite. Sounds exactly like a Machop. The Spiral Pokemon. An ancient Pokemon that was recovered from a fossil. It swims by cleverly twisting its 10 tentacles about. I only see 9. Omastar. The Spiral Pokemon. Sharp beaks ring its mouth. Its shell was too big for it to move freely, so it became extinct. Kabuto. The Shellfish Pokemon. A Pokemon that was recovered from a fossil. It uses the eyes on its back while hiding on the seafloor. Kabutops. The Shellfish Pokemon. A slim and fast swimmer. It slices its prey with its sharp sickles and drinks the body fluids. Aerodactyl. The Fossil Pokemon. A savage Pokemon that died out in ancient times. It was resurrected using DNA taken from amber. Snorlax. The Sleeping Pokemon. Will eat anything, even if the food happens to be a little moldy. He never gets an upset stomach. Articuno. The Freeze Pokemon, a legendary bird Pokemon. It freezes water that is contained in winter air and makes it snow. Zapdos, the electric Pokemon. This legendary bird Pokemon is said to appear when the sky turns dark and lightning showers down. Moltres, the flame Pokemon. A legendary bird Pokemon. As it flaps its flaming wings, even the night sky will turn red. Dratini, the dragon Pokemon. The existence of this mythical Pokemon was only recently confirmed by a fisherman who caught one. Dragonair, the dragon Pokemon. According to a witness, its body was surrounded by a strange aura that gave it a mystical look. Dragonite, the dragon Pokemon. It is said that this Pokemon lives somewhere in the sea and that it flies. However, it is only a rumor. Mewtwo, the genetic Pokemon. Its DNA is almost the same as Mew's. However, its size and disposition are vastly different. How different? Well, let's check out Mew, the new species Pokemon. That's actually a typo. It's supposed to be new species, but there wasn't enough space to fit the whole word. When viewed through a microscope, this Pokemon's short, fine, delicate hair can be seen. And that is the entire Pokedex in its entirety. Hope you guys have enjoyed. Wow, that is quite a long playtime for this file. So yeah, that's roughly, well, probably subtract about a half hour from that, and you've got about how long it took for me to 100% to the Pokedex. So yeah, see you guys next time.